Listen, folks. Hi, how are you? It's day 24 of self-imposed quarantine. I'm your pal Slow Beef. I just want, get some coping mechanisms. For me, the only thing that's really brought me any peace is attempting the spin artist trophy in the Tetris effect, which is where you rotate a Tetris piece a million times. So that's going on that way. Cameras, they reverse everything. I knew. But I know like a lot of you are probably, having some trouble coping with all this because it's weird, right? And you're wondering like, well, sometimes Slow Beef, I can't even sleep at night. I have the same problem. So I'm going to show you a couple of books my daughter got at the Jersey Shore. These are not fake, by the way. There's no Photoshop or trickery going on. These are actual things she bought and that I read for her. So hopefully you find a similar sort of comfort in these books. This is a series by people named Suzanne Tate, who's the author, and James Melvin, who's the illustrator. They look like very lovely people. A little bit of photo glare there on Suzanne Tate, but that's okay. That's okay. This is Stevie B. Seahorse, a tale of a proud papa. So this is, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to start a little bit that Stevie B. Seahorse was a strange fish. He lived inside a bony armor, which I wasn't sure that, I thought armor is kind of a collective noun, but apparently you can say that. That's fine. You can see too, like, this is just a little joke. We're going to get to the good stuff in a minute, that Stevie looks high the whole time. Throughout this whole book, he really does look like that. But basically, what's happening here is that Suzanne Tate's telling us basically how seahorses give birth and everything. And what happens is sometimes, like, the illustrations, they range from, passable, like here's a pregnant seahorse and a clownfish here. And, it's okay, sure. I think I could have drawn that. There's a bunch of seahorses, right? That's like how Stevie was born and everything. And then it's like Stevie had questions. So, I mean, I guess you don't have to illustrate everything. But here's the part that I thought was interesting is that one day Stevie Seahorse decides, well, after some cameos, he decides that maybe he wants to be a father one day, So he fills his pouch with water and make it look big, and two females watched him. So here's Stevie mating, if you can see him, like right about there, okay? And there's these two women watching him, and all of a sudden they start fighting him, okay? That's Sally and Sarah Seahorse. They're both friendly, but not to each other, so they're gonna fight over him, right? So things are looking good for our pal Stevie. They both want to give him her eggs to carry in his big pouch. And then he's like, I can't believe he'll be a proud papa. So Stevie's about to fuck when a voice nearby says like, oh, it's true. And it's his dad watching from the back. So see, like, then this gets a little more in depth than I would have expected a kid's book to. Not that it's going to get explicit or anything, but it's like, you got to do your part, son, who's like watching what Mother Nature intends us to do. Then strangely, we can't afford to horse around if we're going to stay around, which is like, no, I guess it's an alright pun if you're talking about fucking. But anyway, so Stevie has a threesome. I don't know how else to interpret that. I mean, look at the eyes, but you can see too, there's a lot of different books in the series here. Some of them are named really good, or really okay, like Spunky Spot, Mary Manatee. Great Sharky Shark's a bit of a miss in my opinion, but you say so. I'm going to skip the sex ones, or not all of them, but we're going to take a break from that to go to Billy Bluefish, because this is really where the illustrations shine. His name is Billy because he's got a hat right there with his name on it, and it's a little off center, so it happens to be pointing exactly where you'd be looking, okay? Again, part of Suzanne Tate's Nature series. So here's the story, okay? Billy is a big bluefish, And again, you know who he is, because now his hat's backwards instead of the print's the other way. No consistency in Billy's hat, I gotta tell you. But here's the thing about it, okay? He's very big, so he scares people. Or not people, but other fish, and he thinks it's fun to scare other fish, okay? So be careful, said Big Granddaddy Blue. And I'm going to summarize what happens here, because this is, I think, a little, well, Billy gets caught on a hook, obviously, right? And then he tugs on the line and snaps it. And in a kid's book, you'd be like, okay, so he got away. But actually, no, the fish hooks are realistically stuck in Billy's mouth. And they kind of stay there, which, again, I still think is like a lot. It's got to hurt. I mean, poor Billy. God, that lettering just keeps fucking moving. And then what happens is Billy gets caught in a net. I don't know if you can see the Easter egg of that Suzanne Tate, who wrote the book, that the illustrator managed to sneak in. It's somewhere. It's hard to see, okay? But he's in the yellow corks of that net. That's for sure. Oh, boy. Oh, mercy. And anyway, then we hear the sounds of a motorboat. This is another thing in this series, is sometimes like words just get written out like this. We're lucky we get a picture to accompany it this time, but there's the sound of a motorboat, which, famously motorboats sound like zoom, zoom, zoom. But at the end of the day, basically, Fisherman, who looks a lot like Leatherface in my opinion, and I don't know what he plans to do with Billy, who still has the fish hooks in. He at least takes out the hooks. Billy's stuck in the boat, and his grandfather tells him, no, Billy, jump out. So he does. And he made it. Splash. Okay. And basically, what happens is he says to his grandpa, I'll never be a bully again, which was not a plot thread that I thought was actually in this story, but it is. And his grandfather's like, whatever, I don't even want to listen to you. So that's the end of that book, Ooh, man. Let's talk about friends with benefits. Like Charlie Clownfish and Annie A, A Tale of Best Friends, okay? So I'm assuming Finding Nemo was popular at the time. But to be fair, I mean, clownfish are, they're fish. It's not like Pixar owns the copyright on them yet. Let's see. So Charlie Clownfish is a fish full of color with white stripes. Speaking of color, I feel like the coloring on him is a little off there. It's like these weird blue lines. It doesn't look like it was totally finished or anything. But basically, he has a friend in Annie A, who is Annie Anemone. No, I butchered that. So basically, he likes her. They're the best of friends. Now, they're the best of friends, of course, right? And we understand where this is going. Except then there's these hearts here. And again, that like dreamy look that Charlie Clownfish has gotten. But like, I like you very much. You'll never leave me, But it describes them as friends. So I feel like maybe Charlie is like getting friend zoned, or maybe even something's going on here. And I almost feel like there might be something autobiographical going on here, but that's maybe just my sort of fan fiction happening. Then strangely, we need each other, Charlie replied. But aren't you often clowning around? Annie asked, which I was like, wait, what? Like, is she like implying Charlie's banging other fish? Like, what's happening here? And then, so Charlie's got an excuse. Like, no, it just looks like that. I'm chasing away your enemies. Don't worry, Annie. I don't buy this. I don't buy this, Annie. And then, let's see here. And then, like, there's this too. Like, some of this art, I don't know. It's a little weird, but at the end of the day, what happens is, yeah, look at this shit, right? Like, Charlie swam back to his home in Annie A. I'm glad you're here to protect me, she said. All right, so basically what happens, though, is that, like, Charlie does meet another clownfish, Connie Clownfish, and here's Clownfish flirting, where he playfully nips a fin. Again, get some detail that's not necessary. And here's Connie Clownfish spewing eggs out of her side. Another thing I think we could have glossed over in the reproductive life cycles of marine life. Anyway, everyone needs a best friend is the end. At this point, you might be like, Slowbeef, I really think you're reading into this shit. I mean, like, some of it's weird, but come on. So let's talk about the first book, Crabby and Navia, A Tale of Two Blue Crabs. I'm gonna kind of summarize it. First of all, you'll notice Crabby has weird claws. They explain it that he got hit by a fish and lost his claws, and they grow back, which I don't really buy. I think they were drawn wrong at the start, and then they had to write around the fact. But that's just me. You can see, like, right here. I don't know how crabs work, but I don't think a fish just rams into them. Anyway, here's the issue that I have, right? Is at one point, so that's Crabby, and he meets Nabby, who's a girl crab, and they're friends and all that. But one day, Nabby molts, she's like shedding her skin, her shell rather, her exoskeleton, and then she's afraid that she's gonna be, she's gonna be hurt. Like, see, like Nabby was becoming a buster crab, started to crack open. What am I gonna do without my shell? So here's the deal. He's like, don't worry, I'll protect you. And he cuddles her next to him with 6 legs. Now I'm safe. This is called being a doubler, which is when crabs mate. And I didn't make that up. It's in the very next page. Here's a man, capital, like, fucking man here, and it's a doubler. I will catch me some crabs 2 at a time. Again, you can Google this. They're having sex, and the author is glossing over it. But whatever. So somehow, while he's in her, or I guess, Crabby, he carries her away. That's fine, okay? So she's old enough to have... It was time for Nabby to be a mama crab. She was old enough to have little crabs, okay? So in case before you're like, well, maybe it's a doubler, but that wasn't really happening. But, like... So Crabby knew it was that time, and then he took her in close to the shore. Let's see here. Then she loses her shell. There's a timeline goes in and out here. Another crab tries to, like, horn in on this, but Crabby's not having it. He scares him away. And then here we go. Then he cuddles her again upside down, and they're Mr. and Mrs. Blue Crab. I don't know why my kids have to learn about crabs fucking. And again, here's a sort of thing where I guess that's supposed to be Nabby giving birth to crab eggs, but it looks like a body horror kind of thing where there's like some kind of brain monster coming out of Nabby. So, oh, that's from her tail, her apron. And then after all that, Crabby and Nabby, they're nice little parents and stuff. Basically, let's see, they swam in the water again, the end. And then the very next page, you get a nice glossary of crab terms. Like a hard crab is a crab with a hard shell. Thank you, Suzanne Tate. So, like I said, there's hundreds of these books. Like Pesky Peloton, Jenny Jellyfish, Skippy Scallop. I like that one, even though that is way better than Great Sharky Shark. But all right, listen. Hang in there, okay? Stay safe. And I'll see you with a 1 million Tetris rotation spin artist achievement in, like, say 2 months.